In 98 AD, Placidas, this was the first name of Saint Efstathios, excels as a glorious soldier of the Roman Empire. It is not only his noble origin and wealth that makes him stand out, but also his country victories and achievements. So one day when Placidas was training the army to hand, a deer caught his attention, which while running turned and looked him in the eye. He rushed after it, but it found itself with a leap on the brink of a great chasm, leaving Placidas on horseback before him. And suddenly Placidas sees between the deer's horns a brilliant cross with a crucified. He also hears a voice which reveals to him that he is Jesus Christ, the only true God, and calls him to believe and be baptized. The deer disappears, and Placidas returns to his home. But before he could tell his wife about the shocking event, she revealed to him that the God of the Christians had revealed himself to her as well, calling her to believe with her whole family. On the same night, the family receives holy baptism from the Bishop of Rome. The next morning, Saint Efstathios goes again to the place where the vision of the deer had been revealed to him, and there he hears a shocking new revelation. You will suffer what Job suffered in the old days, but in the end you will defeat the devil. Have courage, be steadfast, and strive in the way of virtue. Let the Lord's will be done, Efstathios answered. Saint Theopistes said the same thing when she revealed her predisposition. A few days pass, and the field of struggle for the newly enlightened recruit opens up. All the servants and people of his house die of an infectious disease. His horses and other animals get sick and die. And while one day they are absent from the house, thieves enter it and take everything they have. They are left with only the clothes they are wearing. The rulers who were rich and glorious until a little while ago became poor and pitiful. They then decide to leave Rome and go to an unknown place. They find Jerusalem as the most suitable and start there. Of course, none of them can imagine what will follow. At the end of their sea voyage, the barbaric and lawless captain, demanding an exorbitant fare, keeps Theopistes on his ship, thus separating her from her family. In unbearable pain, the grieving husband continues his way with his two children to the bank of a large river. There, he is forced to leave the older child, so that the younger one can cross first. But as he returns to take the other one, he sees that a lion has grabbed it. He then turns around and sees how the smallest one has also been grabbed by a wolf. In his tears, the saint remembers the Lord's prediction that he will go through what Job did. Perhaps more, one would say, because while Job had a piece of land to rest on, even on dung, he, the saint, wanders as a stranger in a foreign land. Job had at least his friends and his wife near him, while the saint remained deserted by people. It is natural for the soul to be shaken by such and so many waves, but when she is firmly hooked on the love of Christ, she does not bend, she does not waver from her faith. Trust in the providence of Him who constantly watches over us always prevails. Christ is the one who knows why He sends the bitter cups and how to give the outcome of temptation. With unimaginable patience and bravery, the saint took up his cross, performing agricultural work for 16 whole years, there in the foreign land of the East. But the Lord judged that the time was drawing near for Saint Efstathios to take the crown of his patience. By sending people to all parts of the empire, the Emperor Trajan manages to discover him, because the brave soldier is the only one who can save the state from the enemies that threaten it. The emperor again gives him the first positions and assigns him the chief strategy. Saint Efstathios, in order to increase the army, recruits many young men from all over the Roman territory. Among them, without knowing it, his two children were also recruited. They had both been saved from the mouths of beasts by the intervention of local farmers and shepherds. He did not meet them, but as he saw them polite and presentable, he kept them to serve him at table. The campaign began and continued until the city where Saint Theopistes lived. God kept her safe and unharmed from the master's immoral intentions, punishing him with a sudden illness. Saint Efstathios general randomly pitched his tent in the garden of the house where his wife lived. One day, the two children entered the house and gave the hostess some food to cook. By the time the food was ready, they got into a discussion about their origins. The older one told the younger one about his parents and brother, about their boat trip, about the episode of the river with the lion and the wolf. The youngest was shocked. "You're my brother," she cried and fell into his arms. Xanthopisti was listening to the conversation from the kitchen and was moved and recognized the children. But she was restrained and did not manifest herself immediately. Later, she went to the general's tent to look for them, but they were missing. But she found Saint Efstathios sitting in the shade of a tree. As she watched him, she made out her husband's features. She approached him and told him a story. Spouses were recognized. Their joy and excitement is indescribable. They fell into each other's arms and glorified God. "Our children, where are they?" Xanthopisti asked shortly. "Our children were eaten by the beasts," Saint Efstathios replied, with sadness, and recounted the episode in the river. "Let us praise God again," said his wife. "Our children live and are close to us. I heard them say the same things you're telling me now." Surprised, Efstathios calls the two young men and makes sure that they are his children. Everyone's joy knows no bounds. After a 16-year ordeal, the family, separated in a sad and horrible way, is reunited. The whole army celebrates with her. God thus rewards the Holy Family for their patience in so many sufferings that they experienced, but he also prepares for them another greater crown of patience and determination. Winner and trophy holder, the glorious commander-in-chief Efstathios returns to Rome with his family. The Emperor Hadrian, who succeeded Trajan, prepares to offer a great sacrifice to the idols, both for his victory and for finding his loved ones. But the saint boldly declares, "King, I adore Christ. Him I praise and him I thank, because to him I owe my life and my soul. He gave me strength and I defeated the enemies. He prospered and I saw my wife and children. I neither know nor believe in any other God but him who created heaven and earth." This statement made a shocking impression. The festive scene changes. The heathen priests and officers were sad. Enraged, Hadrian orders the saint to take off his military belt and stand before him like a convict. Despite all his efforts, promises, and threats, he does not manage to convince him. And the glorious general Efstathios, the savior of the empire, is now condemned to death along with his entire family. They expose them on a plain and unleash a hungry lion to devour them. But this one, when he came near them, bowed his head as if in obedience to them and turned back. They then make a bronze effigy of an ox, in which they burn the fire and throw the saints into it. When they opened it 3 days later, they saw that their souls had flown to heaven, but not a hair of their head had been touched. This miracle made the assembled crowd cry out, "Great is the God of Christians. He alone is true God and no one else." Every year on September 20, our church honors the memory of the Holy Family, of a family of martyrs that consisted of Saint Efstathios, the wife of the Saint Theopistus, and their two children, Saint Agapios and Saint Theopistos. God is awesome in his saints.